Hey, fam, welcome back to another episode with another fabulous guest, as per usual.
Yes.
Today's guest is an actress and producer and just overall filmmaker. I like using the word filmmaker because it encompasses a lot of things, which
Oh,
we
yeah.
know that, like, even if you can say, like, I am, a producer, if you're making your own films, you're doing more than just producing. I think we
Yeah,
all know
let's
that
be
by
real.
now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But her name is Desiree Staples, and she was referred to us by her manager, Jax Hillard, who's a friend of ours. So thank you,
Woo,
Jax.
woo. Shout out. We love getting amazing guests
Yes.
from our amazing friends. So
Yes.
thank you.
And we had a lot of fun with Desiree today because she is talking about many things, but especially her upcoming film that she is an executive producer and stars in, called My Divorce Party. And she is 2 weeks out from starting production on that. So
Guys,
were extra.
it's raw.
Yeah.
It's real raw.
Yeah.
Love it, though.
And we were
so
extra
relatable.
interested because we're not that close to production yet for our film, but we are in pre-production, so it's coming up. So, like, everything she was saying, we were totally like, okay, mental note. This is something we're going to need to know. So thank you, Desiree, for all that information. But she has been doing all kinds of stuff. She started as an off-Broadway actress, which she then transitioned to film when she moved to LA. And she's been doing a whole lot of things. She has 2 projects in Tribeca in the past 2 years, which is, like, huge.
Like, come on.
Yeah, that's
Girl.
amazing. And she gives you the social media for both of them to follow at the end of the episode. But the projects are called It's What She Would Have Wanted and Circus Person. So look out for those. I just, like, to have 2 films in such a major film festival in the last 2 years is huge. So, yeah. she's doing some shit, guys.
She is killing it.
Yeah.
You know, from theater to film, we love, our theater background peeps because hashtag same. And it's awesome. Like, you'll learn so much, I think, from her trajectory, and we're just so excited to hear more about Divorce Party after it wraps too. So stay tuned, guys. Follow her and listen to this episode.
Well, let's get right into it. So I'm really excited to talk about My Divorce Party, among many other things, but let's start with that because it's coming up.
Coming up.
So please let us, or let our listeners know a little bit about the film, where it came from, where the idea came from, and all that.
Yeah.
And your roles in it.
Yeah.
Very excited to see that you are starring in it and also an executive producer. So we are big fans of doing a lot of crazy things, a lot of hats. And so especially a lot of our listeners definitely feel the same way. So we want to, dive into the tea of all of those things.
The tea, yes. So I'll give some background as well, just how it all came to be. And it's kind of been organically this way of creating my own work and also being in it while at the same time producing other projects, and it all stars aligning. So, but so My Divorce Party specifically, though, I am in a writers group that I'll give a shout out to called Deadline Junkies. They're fantastic. They're based in LA, and it's writers and actors in that group, and they do cold reads of scripts every week. And through the pandemic, they've been doing on Zoom, which is just so valuable to all the writers. Mm-hmm. And they're some of the best actors that I know in there because they're always cold reading consistently. And my dear friend Heidi Weitzer, who's our director writer of My Divorce Party, she brought in 20 pages of the script. And I was obsessed with a female ensemble piece. That's also been something that I've just always been passionate about because I don't see enough of it. And although we're getting better with that, I still do think it sometimes only scratches the surface of, like, and it's still playing at it in a way, because of course things are still a lot more written by the fellas, by men out there. We're getting better, but it's like this, just from the female perspective of a gal going through grief and loss and an unfaithful husband, and her going to Joshua Tree to heal with her best friends, where of course the goal is to heal, but everything goes to shit. I don't know if you bleep that out, but everything gets insane. That's felt very real to me. That felt like something authentic, and it dives into female relationships. It dives into what we hide and tell each other. Yes. And like the main ensemble are five women, you know, and all very different, all very complex, all have different goals, dreams, desires, and different ways to help Zan. And it's very much a metaphor of Zan, my character, brings $100,000 to the desert in a sort of psychotic break, so that her ex doesn't get any of the money. I'd rather burn it than him get another dime because he's ruined my life. And the girls are like, that's not healthy, but we will support you. And so they each decide what to do with $20,000 of the money.
Ooh, I love this.
Yeah. So, and that just expresses itself, I think, so much as the metaphor of all these different women having all these different ideas of moving on and growth and how to support their friends. So I was obsessed with the script, and this was July 2020, and I just finished another project that was in the film festival circuit, but it was a short, and I was like, I think I'm ready for a feature. We could do this during the end of COVID, so we thought. That was July 2020 that we began this journey, and then we're shooting in 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it really just, the producing of it all just came from, I moved to LA in 2017, 2018, and just from a theater world, I went to Northwestern for theater. My whole life was musical theater, and then I really fell in love with comedy and film and TV in Chicago. And I went, oh darn, I should move back to LA. I'm from Orange County, so that was very easy. But I came to LA with no credits to my name, lots of theater credits that theater people love and would be impressed by perhaps, but not a film credit to my name. So I went, you know what? I love to act. I did a lot in school producing the shows and the theater shows. There's this big musical there called WAMU that 100 people work together to create a new musical every year. And I was like, that's basically making a movie. So yeah, it really was and is. So that just came all very natural to me. But I will say with my first pilot, that one was called The Influencers. I brought on writer Ali Kornfeld, who I worked on with that. And that was a 9-minute pilot, really fun, about the world of influencers. And my character thinking she has an interview at ICM, but it's really Internet Celebrity Moguls. And she wants to be an agent to the stars, but she's really an agent now to, at the time, which was when Vine was happening, pre-TikTok, to the Jake Paul, Chewbacca mom, people that put their heads in bread kind of folks, which I love. Like, I love that world. And that was super important to us too, of just like, of course, we're going to be like, because this was the beginning of all that, this is insane. And how are people making money? And it's a little bit, it's not the most, it's not the work, right? But also, if you find a niche, as we're finding with TikTok too, you can make a career off that. And I give anyone credit for finding creative victories.
Yeah, exactly.
However small or not small, however strange they may seem.
Good word.
So yeah, we did that pilot, but I always would bring someone on that I knew had a better skill set in any other department, right? So I know my skill.
Smart producer.
Right. Thank you.
Knowing who to hire is a big victory within itself.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm sure you two know like what you are passionate about and what you are not. And for me, it's always been the acting of it. And if it's an exciting role, it doesn't have to be the lead, but if it's just something I haven't done that excites me, and the producing of it, but directing, writing, I know those are not my fortes, although I'm getting more into writing now, so I can't say that. But at the time, bringing in people so you're not quite wearing all the hats. Although I know people that direct, act, and write, and then they don't produce. So it's just finding your lanes of what you want to do.
Absolutely,
it doesn't feel like work when for the next 2 weeks we're doing 14-hour days prepping for this movie.
That's how you kind of have to do it. I mean, we talk about that on the show, like try everything once. So you know if you love it or hate it or can't do it or, you know, and then, you do find your niche from there. And then you learn, like, even within the little things that you don't necessarily want to pursue, like what is important to you, you know, because then when you are hiring people, it's like, okay, I really need a director who works well with actors, or I really need, you know, a DP that can explain these shots that in these frames that he's setting up to me. And, you know, so like it's good to know a little bit about everything, because even if you're not doing it, then you know who to hire to do it for you.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what started producing and acting for me. That's how that all began.
That's awesome. And I love that you said it's that the show was like producing a movie, because it totally is. You know, if it's a big theater show, like it's the same thing. And I think a lot of time kind of film snobs, I'll say, tend to kind of shit on theater a little bit, like, you know, and yeah, it's different, but it is just as much work, you know, and it's still the same kind of producer brain that you have to have. So
1,000,000%. And yes, I think that a lot of people have the question for me, like, when you are transitioning from theater to film, how big of a change is that? And it's actually, I think, very, very cohesive. Both are extremely collaborative mediums. You can't do anything in the theater just like you can't do anything with the film. And I think you as producers know this. It just gives you so much more admiration for your crew and for every single person on the team. And that's what's so magical about both. They both feel really magical in different ways. Like with film, you have these compressed 2.5 weeks where it's like, oh my God, how did we shoot this in 2.5 weeks? Versus theater, it's always, oh, the dress rehearsal, everything goes wrong, and then you get to be together for another 3 months and leave. And you know, it's but both are just so synonymous. So I don't think there's a big transition at all, other than as an actor really just adapting to the frame of it all.
Yeah.
But it's been very just has clicked of like, oh, putting together a team for a play is the same as like, okay, who's my favorite DP? Who can I steal from this other project? And when we're casting for Divorce Party, okay, they're not exactly right for this, but I'm going to think of them for this next thing that I know my friend wants to, you know, it's that, that's what excites me from the producer side. And that's always been the case with theater as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I do want to mention, so, you know, you said how in both film and theater, like, where would we be without our crews, right? And you had mentioned, which listeners, by the time this episode comes out, there may be some developments in the whole IATSE strike situation, but regardless of where we're at that point, this information is going to be relevant because it could happen at any time, as we've seen with the writer's strike in the past and so many things. So talk to us a little bit, since you're just about to go into production in a couple of weeks, how that's been with hiring crew and planning the shooting schedule and all of that.
Absolutely. So obviously this has been an issue for a while. I think a lot of other unions too are taking a second look at working conditions and this overarching. I do think there's definitely a problem in Hollywood, overarching, that we have to sacrifice our humanity and lives and well-being to get something done. That's an overarching thing, and has been going on for way too long. So I think this is the start of that, and I hope it does create a lot of change in a lot of different capacities and different roles. In terms of this, it's very interesting though. It's a gray area because we are an ultra low budget project, which is a $300,000 film and under. So we are not quite the the massive moguls that they're fighting here, and listeners would know this, or if you do not know this, basically the main issue we're finding is a lot of these new media companies that are from 2017. So to be fair, it was new. It's still, when we're talking about YouTube and Netflix, like Netflix did not become everyone's main source of content, I would say, until 2016, 2017, maybe. So it is still evolving. However, people have been very smart in trying to save money and smart financially, but not smart in how they're treating people. So it's time for new contracts. I totally agree. In terms of our film, it's really interesting. It's a non-union shoot for the crew, but we will see what develops. Like, we are fully in support of the IATSE strike. And if our actors also want to be a part of that in solidarity, we will figure something out, you know, if we have to push, etc. Obviously, the timing is not ideal because we've been working on this for a year. And I think it's tough with indie projects, you know, it's just when in this case, it's like, you know what you're signing up for, but also the pay isn't great. It does make us take a second look too and be like, well, it's a passion project for us. So as long as everyone understands what they're signing up for and it's going to progress all our careers to the next level, we feel good about it, and that it's for three weeks. That's what's good about it. But it's hard. It's always an ongoing discussion, conversation, just something to be aware of how can we make everyone take care of everyone with a budget with a shoestring budget.
Yeah, it's not easy because, you know, of course with a low budget film, you only have a certain amount of days to shoot, and sometimes you're like, oh, we gotta push just for that one last hour and we can get it done. But you know, if that one last hour is pushing into your 13th hour or something, you really got to be cognizant, because these people, like, it's your baby, it's not theirs. You know, they're coming here to work and to help you make a piece of art. So yeah.
And I always believe that is, if you can set that, I love that you said it's an ongoing discussion, as it should be. I think that's what will help the success of your shoot days. You know, everyone understanding what the constraints are, and then everyone coming up with solutions. Because if everyone feels like they're at the same playing page as the producer, like there's no hierarchies here, like we're just here to do the shit and we care because I care about you and I want you to feel like you are getting something out of my passion project, then I feel like you're at a position for success, for those conversations where, like, shit, how can we make this so it doesn't go into the 13th hour? Because I realize, you know, our AD saying we're cutting close, like, let's figure it out. And I think there's a way to do that so you can avoid those situations.
Yeah.
Amen. And I think my interesting take, I will say, is I do think, as I've been reading more and more and researching, I am wary to put a scapegoat just on these companies. I think everyone at a higher level, everyone above the line, has to be looking at this and saying, okay, if we're pushing into 14 hours, Fridays, all these things, maybe we need to, and people are getting hurt and people are driving home unsafely. These are things we really, really need to look at. And then it goes into the nitty gritty, which I was reading an article on, but not as many people are talking about, is that when stars, right, when celebrities are trying to fit films into their schedule, and let's say someone, I'm not going to say any names, but if someone's only available for 25 days, that then forces, but you need funding for that project in order with that star.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing where we're creating an impossible situation. So
catch 22 there.
Yeah. If that star is only available for 25 days, you need the funding for that project, or the movie's not going to get made. That goes to can we try to create a community where we're not stretching our celebrities working 300 days out of the year? But that's where it's like, I don't know the solution for that, because if this is a $10 million movie and the star is only available for 25 days, what then do we do? What then is a production supposed to do? I guess not do that. You know, but there are all these little situations like that where you don't think, oh, it's not everyone from the actors to the production companies to the buyers to the distributors have to start going, we need to be okay with our timelines not being as insane and inhumane as they are right now.
Yeah. It's kind of wild, you know, it's like film has been around for how long now, like, 100 years basically. And we're just kind of figuring this out now, but it's evolved so much. And it's like now anybody can make a film, so there's so many new rules because there's so many new levels. You don't just have, the studios with their stars that, like, it's everybody's trying to figure it out, and it's trying to set those guidelines for such different budgets and different levels of experience and union and non-union and all of those things. Like, it's tough, but it's kind of cool, I guess, that it's all happening now. Like, it's a pain in the ass for us filmmakers that it's happening on our timeline, but at least it's like we're figuring it out and we're trying to make it work best for everyone.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's but hey, it needed to happen. It absolutely needed to happen. I think it is a good time. Although we are getting to pre-pandemic levels of filming, but I think that's honestly, I think that's part of it too. The pandemic obviously has been this huge social movement for our country, and everyone has had the time to actually reflect and read up more and grow and improve. And on the other side of it, I've seen this personally just from my own work of being in my house more and not going out. Like, the workaholism, I think, has increased. And I think that is really hard too, where my productivity has gone way through the roof because I can Zoom, we're not having commutes. So I think people that were working on, even not just on set, but remotely working, 14-hour days total, are now getting like 3 times as much done. And we're going at speeds that we can't sustain in the normal world also.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. There's no like, oh, I'm going to clock out now. You're like, you're home.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, totally makes sense.
So that's been interesting too. But we will see, fingers crossed. I think the best case scenario for the strike is that they get the yes vote, and that IATSE can bring that to the table. And then, I mean, here's the thing though, if the producers and these streamers must know, like, they do know they can't make content without them. They know that.
Yeah,
they totally know that. So
that's why there is no film hierarchy.
Right.
You need those people. They can't. You could not know how to fucking do their job, right? As long as they can't do your job.
Yeah.
And that's why it's such a team effort, and it's just so important that they feel that they're getting just as much support and being treated fairly. Like, it's just absurd. like I give, oh my God, when I'm on these sets and seeing what they do, I'm just like, God damn. And they're always so kind. I mean, I've been blessed to be on great sets that they're the heart of what's happening when you're actually filming. Yeah. Like, you can't do it.
No, they're the rock. They're totally the rock.
Totally.
So fingers crossed, all good vibes. I think that's the best.
Yes, babe.
Yeah.
We are giving you those good vibes. I feel like you're setting yourself up for success with, again, having those ongoing discussions and being supportive. Like, that's just showing up in itself, then being like, oh great, now my whole thing's gonna go to shit. Like, no, like, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
As always, you'll figure it out. And we're putting that good energy. So
thank you.
What does being 2 weeks, you already showed us a glimmer, but what does 2 weeks look like from shooting? Or I know, I can imagine it's a lot of just getting the call sheets, getting together and finalizing.
Oh, we're not there yet, babe.
No? Okay. So then tell me, spill that tea. Where are we at?
We're
so filmmakers can.
We're almost there. I'm being a little facetious there, but as you know, but hey, call sheets, they usually come out.
They come out the day before. I mean, rentals, like where,
I'm very lucky. My team is Faya, and I think that is that's the source of any good production. And this one too, which the Femme regard, I am a huge fan of, because our whole team is female producers, which is also
love that.
Which is
yes, Femme fam.
Which is pretty, I think, pretty rare. So
no, it is. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you. And I stole my producing partner, Sam Fox. We worked on a short last year called Circus Person that was at Tribeca 2020. It's actually a pilot. It's a pilot for a greater series that's written, directed, starring Britt Lauer from High Maintenance and Man Seeking Woman, one of my favorite shows of all time. Also, Western alum. And yeah, so me and Sam worked on that together with Britt and Alex, who are geniuses. And so they're working on Circus Person right now, and I stole Sam for my divorce party. And then Gina Christ and Adrian Childress are longtime collaborators of Heidi, our director. And so we're this like pretty intense fivesome that we have been delegating all the duties. So 2 weeks from production, knock on wood, we're just finalizing casting. So we're doing contracts for those, which is amazing, but a very long process also. Locations. I mean, locations is probably our biggest thing of where we're shooting. We are shooting on location in Joshua Tree and in 29 Palms, mostly in 29 Palms because it's a little bit more affordable, but we can fake it being Joshua Tree. So lodging has been the vein of our existence of getting 35, 40 people out there. Obviously, the other wild nugget in this is the COVID of it all. So we're bringing on, as we speak, a COVID officer and medic, and figuring out exactly, which is a whole puzzle that my brain loves, but as the actor, I'm not going to worry about anymore. But a couple of weeks ago, we've been figuring out which tests we need for which zones, when everyone's going to be tested, that schedule. I mean, it's definitely probably the craziest, hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah. But extremely rewarding. And our team is always there. Between the five of us, we got a text thread of all text threads that's going off as we speak of like, okay, who's doing what? Who's doing this? We're going to call this person. And it's been really cool because actually we're going to talk today to another team who you should reach out to. Vivian Kerr and Rachel Sander that did an ultra low budget feature, Scrap, that filmed in July. I think it was June and July. Okay. And we're meeting with them today to pick their brain on filming an ultra low budget film in COVID. So
love that.
And I have no doubt, I have another friend, Greg, who's doing a film in Texas that then he will be like, Des, please. And of course I'm like, we need to meet today. We need to prepare COVID tests. So, it's all of us going, okay, even though they're now trying to get through picture lock, it's so generous of them to make time today to let us be like, tell us everything. So it's all like,
but that's so smart. And like, I love that you've found people, I love that. I steal people all the time. I'm like, I'm obsessed with you. I'm working with you. And like, that's the beauty. That's how, the best way to network and meet people is just doing the best work and finding the people that you align with on projects. It's how Tessa and I got started.
Well, that's how you get jobs in film, because, as an actor, you audition, but like as a crew or producer or whatever, like it's your experience and word of mouth and, so.
Yeah. And finding people who know what they're doing. I just love that you they're making time for you, of course, because you're fabulous, you're kind, and they're going to reach out and you're going to get some really solid feedback, which is so important. It's a crazy time, this COVID thing, and figuring it out in the best way and safest way.
Carolina, I'm so glad we started using Vitafair. Should we tell the Femme Fam about it?
Absolutely, Tessa. I mean, we were able to upload our short film for less than $6, and we can charge whatever we want for a 24-hour rental.
That's right. We could have charged $20 per view if we wanted, but we decided to go with their micro-pricing model, which makes it a fair price for viewers and still makes us more money than the competitors that only pay out cents per hour of viewing instead of per rental.
Plus, our audience doesn't have to pay for a subscription. It's really a win-win for both sides. Fair trade film monetization.
Vitafair. Live in fairness with video.
It is a strange industry in that it does feel like one of the only ones, until you do it, you have no idea. When it comes to animals, all these little things, animals, children on set, cars, fire. This one, we have a campfire scene where my character in Divorce Party is trying to burn the money, right? So we need to have a pyro person for that. We have to have a stunt person for that. Like, everything is different, and in terms of the rules and what's allowed.
Well, especially when you're doing it through union.
Yes.
Like,
yes,
that's just like a whole nother ball game.
Yep.
Yeah, because you need to have like almost like a certain safety person in place for whatever thing. Like you said, if it's pyro, like for fire. Like, do you have to have the freaking fire department there on standby too?
Yes, yeah. Usually you do. For ours, it's very content. Like, it's going to be a small campfire, but the main concern is that we are fighting over said fire, throwing money, fake money into it. So, and you know what? There is a world where if it doesn't work, we figure out how to do in post, like not ideal, but you could, there are ways to do that, of course. But it is such a strange industry where once you can get through a film during COVID, once we get out the other side of this fully, it'll be like, it'll just be such a sigh of relief. And like, okay, now we only have to deal with the normal obstacles.
Right.
But it's just been amazing that in film, I think, and this has been the key, is everyone is so open to how do we make this work? What are creative solutions? And that is something that's freeing with ultra low budget, is we all from day one have been like, okay, if there's a free location or a friend that can help us with this, if we need to tweak a creative decision that still works, but makes our lives easier, let's do that. And I think that's the only thing that can be difficult, is the expectations from the get-go of, and what's nice about ours, about Divorce Party, it is very outdoors. It's mostly these 5 gals. There's not a ton of stunts except for that fire thing. There's no animals, no children, no, and that is really smart. I think if you're trying to,
I was gonna say, you add animals or children, it goes up exponentially. Like, guys, if you have a kid, then you need like a set teacher and like person on. It's like a whole. You're hiring then a team of people literally for this child. Yeah. And then with animals like Tessa and I, you guys listen to that Western we did episode. You can hear. We're not going to go back into all of that, but yes, like, definitely goes way up.
So it's just keeping that in mind, because I think it would just be very difficult if you have a film that's like action packed with a car chase, and then you're like, oh, we want to do that for $300K or below. It's like, that's not the right film. That's not the right project. So I would say for anyone that wants to do an ultra low budget film, and I highly recommend, because you can do it for $100K, you can do it for $50K, you can do it for $299K, but keep it intimate and consolidated in a few locations. Like, that's going to make your producer or someone, if you're looking for a producer, go, okay, this is feasible. And really, right, this project is a calling card for me as an actor, for our director, for other members of the cast, for our producers. The goal is that it will go to a film festival, and a big top tier film festival, and help jumpstart our careers. So
I'm so excited, Desiree. That's awesome. That's a really fun, that's the perfect mission in mind. And that's also what you should think about when you're pouring your heart into a project, right? It's like, what, and that it's for it's for your whole team too. Like, everyone feels that way. That's so awesome and exciting.
Thank you. Fingers crossed. That's the goal. That's the goal. But and I think we hear this so many times. We see this so many times that sometimes it's just a short. Sometimes it's just a 12-minute pilot that someone sees and changes everything. So it's not necessarily the length, although we are excited about a feature just because we think it fills a really great niche that at least I haven't seen many ensemble dark comedy female ensemble things around. I'm like, I think people would really buy it. So we're crossing our fingers for that. but it's more about, just showing a glimpse of your work. And then the goal is, someone will give you that bigger project with the bigger budget and star, et cetera, et cetera. But I've always been, and obviously you two gals too, it's always, if you build it, they will come. And
I agree. I was just going to say that.
I've always felt
Yep.
that. And it does blow my mind. It is hard to find people that will do, at least in the producing aspect, do the work. I mean, it is, and I get it, because times are hard, life is hard. But to work on something for 7 months or 8 months, that is hard to find someone that's willing to put in that time, especially at a low budget. It's got to be someone that realizes, like, this is my path. It's a huge risk, so I don't blame them. Yeah. It's really hard to find some people that are like, I'm all in, because they're putting their trust in me. They're putting their trust in the team and this project. And it is a year of your life, Yeah. So if someone out there is wanting to produce or write or direct, like, I would give yourself that year if you want to do a feature, or if it's short, just a couple months, but make that everything, because otherwise you're going to get distracted. You're going to have things come and go. And like, you've just got to head to the grindstone, and do it.
I think that's really sound advice. And like, thank you for reiterating that. And I guess my question, since you've said that you've also been producing multiple things at once, what does that relationship look like? And is it because one project is like definitely like the passion, the one thing, and the other ones are just not as time consuming, or they're much, much shorter projects? So any advice on how to deal with that, or you just do not recommend from your experience?
I think definitely, like, if you're doing a feature, that's going to be your whole thing, because you also, like we were talking about earlier, they're just things you don't expect. It's for us, it's been the lodging. Like, the lodging has been much more difficult because it's Joshua Tree in October, and it's a huge it's like the biggest time of the year. Who knew? Like, things will always come up, but I have been lucky. Like, it'll come to you. Like, it really did. July of last year, I was like, I am craving a creative experience. And I just finished post for a different pilot called It's What You Would Have Wanted. That was a part of the Tribeca Creators Market this year. Another female ensemble mystery pilot about a bunch of gals who they make a childhood pact in their middle school years, that if one of them were to go missing or something happened, they would break into their childhood home and destroy anything incriminating, and like texts or sex toys, or I don't know if you have those middle school, but anyway, then they become adults, and something does happen to one of them, and they decide to fill this pact. We shot that in 2019. We shot that at my childhood house. Another thing, like, here we go. This is a free location. My director and writer, Nate Trinrud, also Northwestern, actually writer Marie Semla, also Northwestern, were genius, and that the whole thing took place in a house. We shot in 3 days. That was it. Nice. With 5 girls again.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
I'll send these things your way so you can see.
But yes, please do.
We had finished post for that in spring of 2020. So I had a good 5 months of just waiting for film festivals. So I think that's really smart. Once you get into post for something, always go on to the next one. I think that's smart. I mean, obviously post for feature is going to be a whole other beast. So I won't maybe jump something quite yet, but I think that's been a huge thing just for my brain and ego and creative soul of it all, is I see a lot people stay attached to one project for so long, for like years, short, that like they can't finish for like 2 or 3 years. Like, you got to put that thing out in the world, honey, or else for like I just think it's important to try to get it out as soon as possible, because whatever spoke to you, like Divorce Party, it speaks to me now. In 5 years, it's just not going to feel as like within my soul as it is right now, and
absolutely.
And there's something, like you were saying, what drew me to this project, there's something that draws draws you to each project. And if you let it like wait and you're concerned about what people are going to think about it, or you delay the process for whatever artist shit we do that for, I think that's super dangerous. Yeah. So I think you just got to get it out.
Could not agree more.
Get it out, move on to the next one. And it also makes you less prideful of like, I don't like, this is my one shot, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, with our first project, it wasn't even a short. It was literally just one scene because we had kind of planned to use it as a proof of concept. But it was a Western, so it was way beyond our skill level at that point. But, you know, we shot it, we got it done. And then that's when we got frustrated, was in post. So we said, okay, let's set this aside, which is kind of your other option is, you know, we set it aside for what, like almost 2 years, right, Carolina? And then we came back and we edited it and we put it out there. And
but
in the meantime, we were doing other things.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in and say, but we were shooting other things and I actually learned how to edit. Like by working on smaller, less complicated projects, shorts, I learned how to edit in that time. And then I was able to actually finish it because it was, we had just spent all our money on the production. So, and I wanted to learn. So that's the way to do it. That's why like that happens sometimes too. If you're first learning something, you're going to be frustrated. It's like learning any new skill. It's going to take time. You might hit overload, or you just learn, like we said, to give that to someone else who can do it for you and much faster. So it just depends on what you want to spend time. But I couldn't agree more that it's so important to just put it out. And we reached a point too where we're like, okay, we're good. We're good with this. We're going to put it out. And we were almost not even going to submit it to festivals. And we're so glad we did. Like even that short scene, we've gotten recognition and won awards, and it's been really fun. So just don't be so precious about it. I totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's exciting. Congrats.
Yeah, it was a wild ride.
Happy accident. I mean, accidents, things that aren't supposed to be, it happens all the time. And it always, at least in my experience, always is meant to be, always works out better.
Right? It's just like, okay. So don't get like, I think that's another, like, I guess tip to our listeners is don't get frustrated in the moment. It might seem like the end of the world. Trust me, we all been there. We're like in post and we're like, fuck, this is shit. It will work out. Just take a breather, take a pause if you need to. Like we had to take that little break, but it all eventually comes together, you know. We just try to foresee as many of those problems ahead of time, right? That's what you just learn getting better at, I think, in producing is to foresee those problems and set it up. Yeah. But I'm so glad that you've been able to find such a stellar team that to work with on this. I think what you said too resonates so true. Finding people is so hard who speak your language too, like in just the whole communication sphere of like emailing and not like being on it. So, and I think that is so important. Like I kind of can't work with someone if they don't like on a project, especially into this kind of medium, who doesn't communicate the same way. I don't know if you feel the same way.
100. I think that's been huge. It's like finding your people is so important and sticking with them. This team, Divorce Party, they're stuck with me for life. Sam stuck with me. We always say we're like, oh, we're both in so much trouble. We're just gonna keep working on it. As with what we said about not overcommitting and not doing too many projects, we're doomed. But
you're doing the most.
We're doomed because anything she wants to do, I will just climb into the fire with her because she So I think when I was younger, I was like, oh, I got to work with everyone. I have to work with so many people. And like, I can't just work with the same people. And I've changed that. It is good. Like, I think there is a sense of you want to grow. And of course, if you're just working with the same team over and over again, you should broaden the horizons. But if you have like 3 teams or 4 and stick with those, like that's pretty amazing. And I'm getting to that point, which is pretty cool. But it is hard, and don't get frustrated there either. Like there are going to be people that you love as friends, but you also don't work super well together. And I think like my biggest thing I've had to do as a producer, and thank God I have producers that can do this, like saying no is nearly impossible for me. Because I am always trying to make it work, but then there's a point with the money of it all or the time of it all that you have to say no, and you have to put your foot down, and you have to, I mean, it's been a huge thing for me too with Divorce Party, of like, just internally, I want to produce, I want to make sure everything's good, but I have to be worried about the role. Like I'm the only one who can do the role. Exactly. Happens to be one of the leads. So
what's the balance there like been for you? Like, do you just I mean, we're jumping into that pit too as well for our next feature film. So like, I'm just curious, like at what point do you step away or from the producing aspect, or what are some workflows, I guess?
Yeah,
I'm all about the workflow.
It's all about the workflow. I
think that's just
I've been lucky in that I did. So this is probably other than plays, the biggest film role I've done, because Zan is the divorcee, and luckily,
that's big.
That's big. So it is a huge challenge for me, because I often do mostly comedic stuff, because I tend to have that natural dry sarcasm thing that happens, and Zan is that. I'm lucky, but I'm also going through a Zan like like that recent breakup, horrible emotional state. We all know what that is, so I've been through that, so that helps. But in terms of the workflow, I am learning every day. I started prepping for the role a month ago. I was doing a script, but started working with an acting coach about a month ago, 3 times a week. Now I'm doing lines as much as I can. I'm making my roommate help me with lines. I'm having another friend help me with lines. What else am I doing? I'll produce until 6, probably the next 2 weeks. And then from 6 to 10 is like Zan time. So
I love that. That makes sense. I mean, it's a lot, but I'm like, I get it. I'm like, I love that. Okay.
Because 6 is the end of the workday, so we can't get anything into, vendors or agents or whatever we're talking to. But on the flip side, like this morning, I did an acting session, because sometimes it's better for me. Usually it's better for me at the beginning of the day when I'm fresh versus the end of the day when I'm like, I can't say these things.
Even get my energy to the role, or to focus.
I would just give yourself enough time. I had a dream that I'd be like, a week from shooting, I'll have no commitments and I'll just be Zan. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen.
It's a dream we can all dream, right?
All dream. But
that's always the goal.
But as long as you give yourself enough time, like I'm so glad I started a month ago, even though I was like, I'm starting so early. I'm really glad I started early. It still feels extremely overwhelming. It's terrifying. I'm totally terrified. But acceptance is the first step. and it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So but I've just accepted the next 2 weeks. There's not a social life to be had. There's not another commitment to be had. We're just the 2 weeks of prep and 3 weeks of shooting, and then I'll talk to all my friends and family after that.
I hear that. Yeah.
And that's just the way it's got to be. Yeah. That's the way it's just got to be. So you're in it, and oh my God, thank you for doing this show with us. We're like your last little beacon of the outside life.
Exactly. Hello, Desiree. Yes, before I go into a hole. Yeah, my hermit hole.
Yeah. Yes, but you gotta protect that energy and conserve it in any time you have, and that's so important. So definitely take that time too.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're like,
no, it is.
I mean, then you celebrate after wrap with all the self-care, treat yourself.
Treat yourself.
No, I will say I've given myself, it was tough to be like, okay, I'm not going to work, do my other side job. I'm not going to, like, this weekend, I have no plans, and I could not be happier. I'm just going to self-care, go through the script, sleep. I think that's the biggest thing, is just continuing to sleep and eat and take walks and work out if I can, just to be as human as possible when we get to October 17th, which is when we start.
We'll be thinking of you that day for sure.
Oh my Lord.
Yes, putting all the good, spouting out those good vibes.
Yeah, we traveled.
And I love that.
We traveled 17th, we start just for my brain. That's all good.
She's got it corrected in her head. I'm dead. I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna do that. We're the same way. We were like, ooh, when's this coming out? When are we doing this? But I love that too. Like, put that in your pre-production shoot, you know, that like self-care moment time, I think is so smart to do as part of your workflow, talking back to workflows and like how to balance it, like schedule that, like, you know what, if I don't plan like a self-care, like rest day, like how are you supposed to have the energy to like do the next crazy 2 weeks, you know? So I think that's something definitely to keep in mind too. I think is really important that you said. And
stamina. Stamina, baby. It's all about the stamina.
Yes. It is a marathon.
Not a sprint. Not a sprint.
It is not a sprint. Not a sprint.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Desiree, because this was great. I think it is going to inspire our listeners, but I know for me and Carolina, I mean, we're like on the cusp. Well, I guess we're officially in pre-production for our first feature. We probably won't be shooting until beginning of next year, but like this is such helpful information for us as well. So we really appreciate it.
Oh, call me. Hopefully we will be hopefully the COVID of it all will be gone by then, although I think there still will be some, but but call me, we'll Zoom, we'll do the same thing that my gals hopefully from scrap today.
Oh my God, I would love to.
Course.
Yeah, so. Love for us all to get into a Zoom room and chat.
Yeah, or
a little wine over Zoom.
Or in person by that.
Yeah. Whatever fancies your tea.
Whatever.
I don't think that's a phrase, but I just made it up because that's me on the show.
Obsessed.
We just make up
fancies.
Whatever fancies your tea, girl. I'm here for it.
We're spilling the tea. We're fancying the tea. No, I geek out. On all that stuff. Like, and that's what's been hard. Is my brain loves like, what's the solution? What's the solution? How can I find the cheapest COVID tests in the land? And that's not helpful for when I'm an actor. So I would be thrilled to give any wisdom I can that makes things easier. And that's the name of the game. It's just like, what are the tricks and tips that make things easier and one less thing on your plate? Because nobody knows. It's the phrase, nobody knows how hard it is until you do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but yeah, let's do it. Let's do it anytime after December 1st. It's great.
Perfect. Yeah. Once you wrap, we won't bother you again until then.
Make note. 17th shoot. Great. December 1st. All right. She's wrapping. We'll check in. Let's make sure everything went well, which we know it will. It's always going to be a journey, but Desiree, you got this. You're fabulous. I'm so glad we got connected.
Thanks.
This has been, so awesome and delightful, and we can definitely geek out more longer.
For sure.
Before we do log off, though, I want to make sure that our listeners get your social medias, website, whatever you want to share, so that they can follow your work, your journey, and keep up with you.
Please. All right. So just for me, all things acting, producing, my life. That's at Desiree Staples. Desire with an extra E, Staples like the store, but no affiliation. And then you can check out It's What She Would Have Wanted, which was part of the Tribeca Creators Market this year with myself and Nate Trinrud and Marie Semla. You can follow that at It's What She Would Have Wanted Film. You can follow Circus Person at Circus Person Film. And you can follow My Divorce Party at My Divorce Party Film.
Perfect.
Then that's what you got. And we are still, we'll have to talk about this next time, but we are still fundraising.
Okay.
Divorce Party for Post, so you can check that out. It's actually, we're on a platform called WeFunder that's having investors invest in the project. You can check that out at wefunder.com/mydivorceparty. So check it out, and if you want to invest, you can.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to Femme Regard Podcast. If you like what you hear, tune in every Friday for more tips on the filmmaking business and insightful conversations with industry professionals.
We can only grow with your support, so please subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can also join the Femme Fam on Patreon. For more on us, check us out at femregard.com.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.